In 1967, the Central Intelligence Agency walked a calico cat across a Washington park toward two Soviet diplomats. The cat had been surgically implanted with a microphone inside its ear, an antenna coiled in its tail, and a transmitter in its chest. It was the most expensive listening platform the agency had ever built. Reportedly $20 million. 6 years of engineering. 2.5 years of training. On its first operational deployment, the cat's attention drifted within 90 seconds. It walked off the rehearsed vector toward something interesting on the opposite side of the park. An estimated $20 million rendered into nothing. The project was classified for 34 years. This is File 21. Project Acoustic Kitty. The Central Intelligence Agency's Office of Technical Service in 1961 was, on paper, a serious intelligence apparatus. OTS engineered the lock-picking tools that CIA case officers used to enter foreign embassies. OTS developed the chemical communications tools that CIA agents use to transmit messages. OTS designed the disguises and the deception devices, and the secure communications hardware that made every CIA operation possible. And in 1961, OTS authorized a project to surgically implant a domestic cat with micro-miniaturized listening devices, and to train the cat to walk past Soviet officials on Washington Park benches. The proposal originated from an OTS technical paper that argued, in plain bureaucratic English, that human handlers in urban operational environments were recognizable, trackable, and photogenic. A cat, by contrast, was invisible. A cat sitting on a park bench was normal. A cat that had been surgically modified to record audio was, in operational terms, a perfectly camouflaged collection platform. A behavioral science consultant brought in from a contracted university animal behavior research lab raised an early objection. Cats are not, she pointed out, reliably trainable to follow operator-directed behavior in unfamiliar environments. Cats follow their own instincts. A cat in a park will walk toward whatever its predatory or curiosity attention is currently fixed upon, not toward whatever its handler asks it to walk toward. The CIA technical lead listened. He responded that the behavioral engineering problem could be solved with sufficient training time and sufficient operant conditioning protocols. Project Acoustic Kitty was authorized. Surgical experimentation began in early 1962. The first surgical subject was a tortoiseshell calico cat with orange, black, and white markings. The procedure took 4 hours. The cat was placed in an 8-month recovery and training cycle. The wire harness implanted along the spine, the microphone in the ear canal, the antenna coiled in the tail, the battery and transmitter in the chest cavity. And every modification to the cat's body had to heal completely before training could begin. By mid-1965, after 14 months of training, the cat could be reliably commanded to walk toward a simulated park bench target, approximately 60% of the time. The other 40%, the cat did whatever it wanted. The CIA technical lead read the training program status report. He authorized the next phase: live operational deployment in a controlled urban environment. By mid-1965, the OTS technical infrastructure for Project Acoustic Kitty was in place. The microtransmitter package, a sub-miniature vacuum tube oscillator, a short-range RF amplifier, a battery rated for approximately 90 minutes of continuous operation, had been engineered down to 28 grams of mass and 12 cubic centimeters of volume. It fit inside a sterile sealed implant chamber surgically inserted into the cat's chest cavity. The microphone was positioned inside the cat's ear canal. The antenna was coiled inside the tail. The wire harness running subcutaneously along the spine connected all of it together. The audio quality findings, however, were sobering. The microphone position inside the ear canal was biologically optimized for detecting prey movement, not for capturing distant human voices. The transmitter's RF channel was competing with mechanical noise from the cat's own body. Eyes, breathing, heartbeat, the rustle of movement, the chewing of grooming behavior. The voice intelligibility at 3 meters operational distance was approximately 30%. The OTS audio engineer responsible for the testing prepared a memorandum, recommending that the project be reconsidered before further operational investment. The memorandum described the audio quality limitations as fundamental to the choice of platform. Not solvable through better microphone placement. Not solvable through better RF engineering. Not solvable through any incremental improvement. The OTS technical lead read the memorandum. He filed it. He authorized operational deployment to proceed despite the limitations. The trainer continued refining the operant conditioning protocols across 1966. The cat was walked through progressively more realistic park environment simulations. Crowds, children, traffic noise, urban smells. The training success rate slowly climbed towards 70%. By early 1967, the trainer had been authorized to lead the first operational deployment. The first operational deployment of Project Acoustic Kitty took place in a small leafy park along 16th Street in central Washington in early 1967. The target was a Soviet diplomat reading a newspaper on a park bench. The trainer walked the cat along the park's outer path in a wicker pet basket, knelt at a pre-rehearsed point on the edge of the lawn, gently lifted the cat out of the basket, and gave the cat the trained operational command. The cat looked at her. The cat began to walk slowly across the lawn toward the bench. For the first 30 seconds, the mission succeeded. The receiver console in the CIA panel van parked nearby picked up the cat's transmitter signal. Faint Russian language conversation was intermittently audible through the cat's own body acoustic noise floor. The cat was on its trained vector. And then, midway across the lawn, the cat's head turned toward the opposite side of the street. Something had caught the cat's attention. The cat began to walk perpendicular to the rehearsed vector. Away from the Soviet bench, toward the curb, toward the street. The trainer gave the recovery command. The cat did not respond. The cat continued toward the curb, stepped off. And the cat continued walking, past the trainer, past the rehearsed vector, away from the target. The trainer gave the recovery command again. The cat did not respond. 2 minutes later, the cat was no longer visible from the trainer's position. The mission ended approximately 90 seconds after it had begun. The trainer could not pursue the cat without compromising her cover. The CIA panel van's receiver console stayed on. The cat was still alive. The implants were broadcasting at full strength, but the only audio was footfalls and breathing. Zero operational signal. The recovery protocol was to leave the equipment, leave the location, and proceed home. Several days later, the OTS technical lead read the brief after-action report. He authorized program termination. Reportedly $20 million United States dollars of CIA technical investment. 6 years of surgical and behavioral engineering programs. 2.5 years of training. And the operational viability of the surgical subject. All of it ended in approximately 90 seconds. Because a cat saw something interesting on the opposite side of a Washington street. The trainer, by some accounts, requested compassionate reassignment from the program within 72 hours of the incident. The OTS office quietly approved the request. The remaining surgically implanted cats in the recovery and training pipeline were, according to the declassified file, retired to a CIA-contracted veterinary facility in suburban Virginia, where they lived out the rest of their natural lives in non-operational status. The implants were not removed. The cats simply stopped working. Project Acoustic Kitty remained classified at the highest levels of the CIA Office of Technical Service for approximately 34 years. The program was declassified in 2001 through standard Freedom of Information Act release procedures. The declassified file ran to approximately 200 pages of redacted technical and operational documentation. The file did not enter mainstream public consciousness, however, until 2008. HIJACK. When Robert Wallace, the recently retired chief of the CIA Office of Technical Service, published the full Project Acoustic Kitty narrative in his book Spycraft, co-authored with intelligence history researcher H. Keith Melton. Wallace's account was direct. He described the program as it had actually happened. He did not embellish. He did not minimize. He noted the reportedly $20 million of CIA technical investment, the 6 years of surgical and behavioral engineering programs, the 2.5 years of training, the 90 seconds of operational lifetime, and the immediate program termination. The story entered cultural memory as an example of intelligence program absurdity. The canonical case study of what happens when a serious intelligence service contemplates an idea so outwardly ridiculous that no review process pushes back hard enough to prevent the technical implementation from proceeding all the way to live operational deployment. But the deeper lessons documented in academic intelligence history studies are more general. Intelligence services routinely overestimate the trainability of biological systems. Surgical implant approaches to covert collection are limited by the host organism's biological priorities. The behavioral engineering problem is not solvable with sufficient training time. When the host organism's behavior is fundamentally not human, and cost-benefit analysis of speculative covert collection programs requires honest engineering review at multiple program decision gates, not just at the initial proposal and the final operational deployment authorization. The first cat, the calico, originally surgically implanted in 1962. The fate of the first surgically implanted cat is not part of the declassified file. The historical record remains incomplete on this particular subject. Wallace's 2008 memoir notes only that the surgical implants were not surgically removed before the cats were retired from the program by OTS officers who continue to work in the building. Wallace's account also revealed a parallel program that had run alongside Project Acoustic Kitty. Across the same 6-year window, CIA OTS had been simultaneously evaluating dolphins, ravens, and pigeons as covert collection platforms. The dolphin program had been the most technically promising. And dolphins were trainable, fast, capable of carrying surgically implanted hardware, and naturally suited to harbor environments. The dolphin program had been more extensively evaluated for harbor environments and developed further in technical testing than the cat program ever reached. The raven program had reached the prototype stage. The pigeon program had been used successfully for daylight aerial reconnaissance over restricted Soviet facilities. Pigeons carrying miniaturized cameras photographing Soviet defense installations. In the early 1970s, each of those programs, the dolphin, the raven, the pigeon, had been considered, at various points, more operationally promising than the cat. None of them produced the cultural history legacy that Acoustic Kitty did. The cat became the canonical example because the failure was so clean, so absurd, and so completely captured in a single 90-second operational window, on a single Washington afternoon. Project Acoustic Kitty also became, after declassification, a case study in academic curricula on intelligence program governance. Graduate-level seminars on covert action oversight at major American universities now use the program as the textbook example of what happens when an intelligence service authorizes a speculative project that survives initial proposal review, advances through technical engineering review, advances through behavioral science review, advances through cost-benefit review, advances through operational readiness review, and reaches live deployment authorization, without any single review gate raising the fundamental question: should this program exist at all? The lesson is that a program that has been internally authorized at 6 successive review gates accumulates institutional momentum that becomes structurally difficult to challenge. Even when the foundational premise is, in plain language, that a cat will reliably walk where its handler asks it to walk. Project Acoustic Kitty demonstrated a theorem that has only become more dangerous in the 6 decades since. A wetware collection platform, a biological organism modified to carry intelligence collection hardware, is fundamentally limited by the host organism's biological priorities. A cat will not walk where its handler asks it to walk. A cat will walk where the cat's predatory or curiosity attention is currently fixed. The behavioral engineering problem is not solvable with sufficient training time, because the host organism's behavior is not human, and the human goal of the operation is not the cat's goal. The CIA learned this lesson in 1967 on a Washington sidewalk. Modern intelligence services have inherited the lesson and inverted it. The modern descendants of Project Acoustic Kitty are not biological. They are electronic. They sit on shelves in living rooms. They roam autonomously through homes. They listen, they record, they transmit. They are not surgically modified. They are designed from inception with covert collection capability built in. The session is logged. The connection is closed. The files remain open. Every smart speaker on every kitchen counter on this planet, every robotic vacuum on every charging dock, every pet camera on every living room wall, every animal-shaped IoT plush toy, every wearable biotelemetry sensor. Each of those devices is in continuous operation. Each of those devices is transmitting traffic back to manufacturer cloud infrastructure. Each of those devices is in principle a harvestable collection platform for whatever intelligence service can compromise the cloud infrastructure. The numbers are unprecedented. Industry analysts estimate that the average United States household contains 17 network devices with continuously active microphones, counting smart speakers, smart televisions, smartphones, laptops, tablets, smartwatches, smart refrigerators, baby monitors, video doorbells, security cameras, robotic vacuums, networked thermostats, and connected children's toys. The aggregate microphone footprint inside the typical American home dwarfs the total CIA covert listening capability of the entire 1967 calendar year by more than 2 orders of magnitude. And the modern device, unlike the modern cat, does exactly what its handler asks. It sits on the shelf where it was placed. It listens to whatever happens in its acoustic vicinity. It transmits whatever it hears to whoever can compromise the manufacturer cloud. It has no opinions. It has no predatory instincts. It does not chase butterflies into traffic. The cat had opinions. The device does not. Which leaves us with the closing question of File 21. Which device in your house right now do you trust the least to not be the next Acoustic Kitty? Quietly listening, quietly transmitting. No biological attention drift to break its focus.